Well, maybe the holidays, but the political drama on Parliament Hill shows no sign of slowing. Today marks a week since Chrystia Freeland's resignation. For what comes next for the Trudeau government is still a guessing game. On Friday, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said he's going to write to the Governor-General, asking her to allow a non-confidence vote, while the notion of proroguing Parliament, well, that's also still being discussed. So joining us this morning is Drew Fagan, professor at the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto, on what might be next over the holidays and into the new year. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
All right, we are almost exactly a week since Chrystia Freeland handed in her resignation. First of all, remind everybody why Mr. Poilievre made this call. He did this announcement on Friday saying he's going to ask the Governor-General to call everybody back so they can have a vote of non-confidence. Does that plan have a chance of working?
It doesn't. It's a decision of the Speaker to bring back the House, and that's extraordinarily unlikely. The House of Commons is in recess until the end of January. The Conservative leader is pressing hard. He's 20 points ahead in the polls. He wants an election as soon as possible. Under various scenarios being talked about now, he'll probably get that election, but it probably won't be until the spring because, as you mentioned, there's the potential to come back and have a non-confidence vote, or to prorogue Parliament, which would extend the recess in effect of the House, probably for a few weeks more.
We know proroguing would mean a pause, but could you explain to everybody just sort of some of the details that goes into sort of the logistics, the parliamentary procedure of what that would actually entail?
Well, as I mentioned, so the House is in recess till the end of January. The Prime Minister could go to the Governor-General and ask to prorogue Parliament, which essentially means that it ends this session of Parliament, which has been going on since the last election in 2021, and sets up a new throne speech. This is generally done to sort of reset the government. Now, there have been circumstances in the past, as recently as 2008, under the Prime Minister at the time, Stephen Harper, to effectively prorogue Parliament to maintain the government's control, or to extend their control in power, because they were in 2008 under pressure from the three opposition parties, as is the case now. In 2008, the Governor-General at the time did allow that prorogation, which bought Stephen Harper time. The same thing could happen now with regard to the Prime Minister Trudeau. But of course, the question remains what his strategy is going forward. We understand that he won't make a decision, won't announce a decision with regard to his future over the holidays. That takes us into the new year. And of course, the country's in a bit of a crisis with regard to negotiations with the United States as Donald Trump takes power on January 20th, which complicates everything further.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you about, and I keep going back to the calendar, and as you point out. So Donald Trump comes in January 20th. He has promised to make tariffs one of his first orders of business. We don't come back to Parliament Hill until January 27th. If there was prorogation in place, how far does that put the government from being active? And do we want an inactive government over that time period?
The government can still be active. It can buy them time to stay in power, in effect, even if the House isn't sitting. The question then becomes who's leading the government of the day, the Liberal Party, into those negotiations with the new U.S. administration. If the Prime Minister resigns, there may be an interim leader. Perhaps he'd be interim leader as there's a leadership race. It gets very complicated. And believe me, people aren't taking this week off in the Liberal Party trying to think it through.
Yeah, a lot of Zoom calls happening, I imagine. Professor Drew Fagan, thanks for joining us this morning, and happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays, Anne-Marie.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.